Hey everybody, welcome to a new chapter of Old Man Brad. Whether you are new to the show or returning for another chapter, thank you so much for giving me a listen. If you love the show, please drop me a review over on your favorite podcatcher, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, wherever you listen to the show. I would love to hear what you think. So this week, I'm not only doing another horror movie, but I'm doing a horror movie about a legend that is fairly close to where I live. I'll be talking about the found footage film Frogman. And I also will have an interview with director and co-writer Anthony Cousins. But before we dig into that, if you're in Cincinnati, come out to Frightful Fridays, March 15th at 10 p.m. I will be hosting a screening of the 1993 film Leprechaun. I'm going to have a few giveaways. It's going to be so much fun. Frightful Fridays, we do it the third Friday of the month at the Esquire Theater. So just watch for more screenings coming. It's a blast. All right, let's roll into Frogman.
People keep saying that my Frogman footage is fake, and I'm gonna get proof that the Frogman exists.
Morning, sunshine!
We're in. Let's do this, man.
Do you have something to say about Frogman?
Frogman, that's what put Loveland on the map.
So are you a Frogman fan?
That what brings you folks to town?
We're actually making a documentary.
Is he an ancient god? Or is he an ancient alien, maybe? Or is he a big frog trying to get his rocks off?
So, Dallas, do you have anything to say about what you're really trying to accomplish here?
I want the world to know the truth
Okay.
about Frogman.
All right, film in the woods. What was that?
Three friends in search of the Loveland Frogman find out that he is more than just a local legend. Like I said, this is co-written and directed by Anthony Cousins. It stars Nathan Timoshik, Benny Barrett, Chelsea Grant, and this is a found footage horror film. Like I said at the beginning here, this is about the Loveland Frogman legend. I live in Mason, Ohio, and it is about 10-ish minutes from Loveland, Ohio. I know of the Frogman. There are a lot of people around here that don't really know about the Loveland Frogman myths, legends, whatever you want to call it. Basically, this is a 4-foot bipedal frog humanoid that was seen in 1972. He has since been seen multiple times since. It's been, supposedly disproven as a large lizard. It's been different variations on the legend. Like some say they have seen him with a magic wand. Some have seen it as a cult. Some different variations of it. And the town of Loveland hasn't really embraced this Frogman until probably the last couple of years. The Frogman Fest. This was its second year. I unfortunately did not make it to the fest. I wanted to make it to the fest so I could talk to Anthony Cousins in person and just check out the fest. But unfortunately, I came down with COVID and I could not make it because I just felt awful and didn't want to leave my house for one. But when I first saw the trailer for Frogman and heard that this Frogman movie was coming out, I was really excited because I knew of the Frogman legend. I live close to the area. I was like, I need to see what they do with this film. And it's a found footage film. And I've stated in the past multiple times, other times on the show and things like that and on social media, that found footage films for me are very hit and miss. There have been many that I hate it. Like, I just can't always get into them. There are some, like Blair Witch, I loved. Cloverfield is one that I really love. And there are others, but for the most part, I don't always watch found footage films. They just don't resonate for me. But I'm going to say this worked. This worked for the story that they had. This worked for what it was. And seeing a story of the Loveland Frogman coming to life, so to speak, with some twists and extras and stuff like that, I enjoyed this film quite a bit. I liked the Blair Witchness of it, where you have these two guys and this girl. They're going out in the woods close to the river to find the Frogman because this man, as a child, he saw the Frogman and he wanted to go back to the area to document it, to prove that he's real, to prove that he wasn't crazy, that he did see it. So in this, like, you know, they go through the Loveland, and it wasn't filmed in Loveland, but Anthony did a great job of setting up Loveland as this. I mean, Loveland's a small little town. There's a record shop, Plaid Room Records, that I go to probably at least once every other week. It's kind of this small little town. They have like a trail, a bike walk trail. If you over close to that trail, you kind of go down and there's the river and everything else. And he did a good job of kind of setting the area of this little small town with a river close by. Even though it wasn't Loveland, he kind of captured that area. It worked. It drew me in. You know, I know what the place looks like, but you know, this is fiction. It is a movie. It drew me in. The story had me hooked of this man trying to find this Frogman, and it kind of spirals more into darkness of finding more secrets, figuring more things out, and I enjoyed my time. You get to the end, and it's wild. The third act is crazy. And I really want to see more Frogman movies, honestly. I want to see more. Give me more Frogman. Go check out Frogman. It's a high recommend from me. And this is coming from someone who doesn't always love found footage. So go check out Frogman. Well, enough of my rambling about Frogman, about Loveland, about the area. If you come out here, come to Loveland. It's a nice little town. But anyway, let's move into my interview with Anthony Cousins, and I will talk to you on the other side. My guest today has worked on many projects, including Scare Package 2, Rad Chaz Revenge. In his feature film directorial debut, he brings an urban legend to the big screen in Frogman. I want to welcome in Anthony Cousins. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Big question I want to ask you. Why the Loveland Frogman?
Well, when I when I found out, well, I have a bit of a frog obsession as it is. Even before I knew about the Frogman. I love frogs in suits. I love frogs in hats. I love Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Big fan. But then I learned about the Loveland Frogman, and I love creatures. I love monsters, horror, cryptids, and I had never heard of this one. I mean, he's lesser known, but I think if he comes on your radar, I don't know how you're not captivated by him. Like, at least for a minute, you got to go down the rabbit hole of like 4-foot bipedal frog. He's been seen multiple times since the 50s. He's got a wand, apparently. Like there's been multiple seen together conducting rituals. I mean, it's just fascinating. And, there's a lot of Bigfoot movies. There's some Loch Ness Monster movies. We've got a couple Mothman movies, but we don't have any Frogman movies.
No.
And that just seemed wrong to me. I wanted to rectify that.
And I live close to the area of the Loveland Frogman, so I knew of it. So when I first saw this trailer, I was like, someone actually made a Frogman movie. This is awesome. So I wanted to get you on to ask why. And as you were kind of learning more and more of the Frogman, kind of researching for the film, are there like even crazier stories you're like, really as he kind of went along? I mean, he's got a magic wand and he can like get into your head, and he's what?
Yeah, there's just I mean, the whole thing is just so strange because like the early sightings are like seem to be respectable people, not your run-of-the-mill crazy people that you would expect to say this kind of thing. One was a cop, and I think or a sheriff, and he walked back and said maybe it was like a pet iguana that escaped or something. but there's been enough sightings of it that I'm like, there's got to be something here, right? Like it's just so like what a strange thing. I think a hairy man in the woods, like a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch, is pretty. There's a lot of things you could mistake for that, from just a big guy, a hiker, a bear, shadows or whatever. But to say you've seen a 4-foot reptilian, amphibian creature, let alone multiple sightings of him wielding a wand, is just like what's going on, and who has a reason to make this up? So that fascinated me. Within the movie, we go quite a bit further with with the mythology, because when I was doing my research, it seemed like Loveland doesn't largely embrace the Frogman, or at least at the time that we made the movie, they didn't. And now we've got the Frogman Festival. Since we made the movie, the Frogman Festival has started, which is huge, which makes me so happy that he has his fandom, he has his people coming together. It also makes me a little bit nervous because we took so many leniencies with the story, because I didn't think there was any like passionate people that like really cared all that much.
Did you always intend to make, as you were creating the story for this, did you always intend it to make it like a found footage documentary style of film?
Yeah, for sure. I think, cryptids and found footage just go together like peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah.
Every image of a cryptid you've ever seen is like a blurry photo or a blurry video. And I mean, that's all found footage is, right? Like give you a glimpse. So they go together really well. And then I think immediately we came up with this story. Like the first thing that came to mind when we considered what is the story if we did a story of Frogman? It was like, well, it's a guy who saw him as a kid and is now going back to make a documentary about the Frogman and trying to get footage, that proves that he exists. And it's like, that just really lends itself to found footage. I mean, you could do that traditionally, but it's a great found footage concept, I think. And I personally, it gets a lot of flack, but I love found footage when it's done right. I think it's a lot of fun and it's really unique.
I agree with you, because there are a lot. Found footage can be hit and miss for me, because some I'm like, ooh, this nailed it, and then some it's like, well, you were just trying to make something. And Frogman worked. The way you did it and everything else, like it works. Found footage is perfect for this story. Was a lot of it filmed out here, or did you find like forest locations elsewhere to creep the Frogman and hide him in the shadows?
I'm relieved as someone who lives 10 minutes from Loveland that you even have to ask that. I'm so relieved because we shot the entire thing in Minnesota.
Okay.
And it was like, on my to-do list before filming was, you gotta visit Loveland. You gotta see what this town is really like before you shoot. And it was just a really, really crazy summer, because I crew on features also as like a day job. Like when I'm not directing my own stuff, I'm gripping. And it was a really busy summer, and I never made it out to Ohio before we started shooting.
So the town that you shot in is in Minnesota, like a small little town.
Yeah.
For the most part, you captured Loveland pretty well. Like it is at least old Loveland is very like an old kind of cool little town that you go with little shops all over the place. So,
oh my God, what a relief.
As I was watching, I was like, okay, that's not really Loveland, but they kind of got the feel of it a little bit.
Yes. Nice. Oh man, what a relief. Yeah, it's funny. Our boom operator on the movie at the time was dating a girl from Loveland, Ohio. And he told her about this movie that he was working on. And she's like, what? I've never even heard of a Frogman. What are you talking about? And I was like, I guess we can just do whatever we want.
There are a lot of people that don't know. Like before I saw the trailer for this, I was talking to my wife. I just happened to, we were down in Loveland. So I mentioned it, and she's like, what is the Frogman? I was like, you've never heard of the Frogman? Like not everybody has. It's very a small time urban legend. And like you said, the Frogman Festival, they're kind of embracing it a little bit more. It's only gone on, I think, 2 years. So I didn't even know that was happening until recently. But I'm glad that it's, like you said, getting its due, so to speak.
Yeah, hopefully between the festival and, if the movie's well received, like, yeah, let's give him his time in the sun. Maybe Loveland will come around.
Now, how was working on, I mean, you did a couple segments in Scare Package 2. How was working on, your directorial debut of a whole feature of your own compared to these kind of shorts and shorter segments that you've done in the past?
Oh man, it was such a learning experience. It was crazy because like I think at most, all my shorts have been like 3-day shoots.
Okay.
And maybe like a fourth pickup day, like a week later or something, if it's like a different location or effects or something. So to shoot as long as we did, which was like 10 days initially, and then a lot of pickups after that. because there's a lot that didn't go right the first time around.
Okay.
Huge learning experience. Also interesting, not only the first feature, but my first time trying found footage at all, which is like everything that you learn about filmmaking through the traditional way of doing things is mostly useless. When it comes to found footage, it's like learning a whole new way of doing things. It's crazy, which was super, super fun and like loose. But, we had like a tight script that I think if we would have shot that script the traditional way instead of found footage, everything would have been fine. But like through the lens of found footage, there was a lot that was not working because it just felt too staged. So we had to go back and like rework things, like rewrite the script, the third act. And that's something I always worried about when it came to a feature is like keeping that tonal consistency, because like you shoot a short in 3 days, you're probably shooting chronologically, you're probably shooting in 1 to 2 locations, and it's easy to kind of like set a tone and keep it consistent over 3 days, no problem. But when you're shooting like things from the third act in your first week of filming, like I've always worried about that. Like, well, then what if we shoot first act stuff and all of a sudden like what we shot in the first week doesn't work anymore?
Yeah.
And every movie, lots of movies go through reshoots because of those kind of things. But working on this kind of budget, you can't necessarily afford to get everyone back together over and over,
Like after you were done, you said there were some that you had to kind of rework and stuff like that. Did you find yourself like, well, this part didn't work. I have a camera. I'll just run out in the woods and shoot this POV basically shot. Like I can't get everybody together, but I can do it.
Totally. Yeah. There was a lot of stuff that I just did on my own or just a couple of us. And also like when I started to realize that things weren't working, in those first 10 days, obviously we weren't going to rewrite it right then and there while we were on set, but I did see like, oh my God, like we're shooting a lot of stuff today that I will never use because it's part of this like direction that is not working at all. So I tried, and without trying to like cause a panic, unfortunately everyone could like feel my energy and like knew something was up. So I did a terrible job hiding it, but I tried to just like keep morale up and shoot things that I knew I could use in any instance, any iteration of this story, like, them walking around the woods or, like things that would have been universal. I tried to make use of our time when we were there.
Now, are you a fan of found footage films? Did you find yourself as you're making it, especially in a wooded area, going, man, this feels very Blair Witch to me. I need to like change it up or do something a little different? Because it's kind of very similar. You have 2 guys and the girl going out in the woods trying to find a frogman. Not a witch this time, but
yeah. It's funny. I think this is like the first time I've ever like gone back to my influences like so much during a project for inspiration. Whereas like usually like I kind of take this approach of like I am like such a culmination of all of my influences and all the things I've absorbed over the years that I'm never going to try to like directly influence or be influenced by something or like take or try to homage something, because I think I'm just going to do that naturally regardless. And if I try to do that, it might seem derivative,
Yeah.
And this was one time where I was just like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. How did they do it in Blair Witch? How do they make it so authentic and so interesting? And so I'd go back and watch that and Willow Creek and Digging Up the Marrow. I'd watch those movies over and over, like looking for influence. And what I kept finding is like, what I should have known from doing all my shorts is like, just do what feels right.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to do what you think works in found footage because you're scared because you've never done it before, just do what feels right when you're out there with the camera, and like that's ultimately the stuff that makes it into the movie. And I shot so much more wood shit, them walking around the wood, bullshitting and like trying to get it to feel like Blair Witch, and like most of that didn't make it in because it did feel derivative.
That's the stuff you could throw on the DVD if it ever comes, right?
Yeah, right.
So after Frogman and everything else, what do you have coming after this? Do you have any projects in the works? Is possibly Frogman 2 in your mind or anything like that?
Yeah, well, I have so many things ready to go. and no money. But
The story of a filmmaker. I hear it a lot. Indie filmmaker, that is.
Exactly. So, I've got stuff all over the board. Big stuff, medium-sized stuff, dramatic stuff, comedic stuff, all within horror. I do have another found footage idea that I really like, and that's kind of I'm going forward with that regardless of what happens, because it's just like this I could get done this year if nobody starts wanting to fund the bigger things. And then fingers crossed, if Frogman goes well, we have a really exciting idea for Frogman 2 that we could roll into right away also if people want more Frogman.
Well, I'm going to tell anybody listening, go seek out Frogman, go check it out. I honestly think that people will enjoy it. I quite enjoyed it.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
So where can people follow along to you to see what you have rolling, what's coming up next, or anything else? I'm mostly
on Instagram, cousins_Anthony. And then there's a Frogman Instagram too, Frogman Movie. So I'm posting I'll be posting Frogman stuff and what I'm up to next, Frogman related or otherwise, on my own personal Instagram. And found footage has inspired me to not have to be so precious about plotting and making everything perfect to create something. Because even with my shorts, it was really I put a lot of time into, I'm not just going to do a throwaway thing. I want it to be the best I can do.
Yeah.
And this made me realize it is really fun to just grab the high camera and go goof around a little bit. So I'm going to try and post more mini, some micro found footage stuff on my social media. Yeah.
Well, Anthony, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to chat with me about the Frogman, and everybody go watch the movie.
Yeah. Thank you.
I want to thank Anthony again for chatting with me, taking the time out of his day just to talk to me about the Frogman, the legend, what drew him to this legend. And I'm bummed that I didn't get to meet him when he came out to the Frog Fest, but hopefully we'll get to connect again. Possibly Frogman could be coming back to the area to screen, but we'll see. Obviously, before I go out, I like to give something for you to watch at home besides Frogman. Go rent Frogman. And if you need more watches, but one that you can watch on Tubi, that I watched part of our Tubi Tuesday, which follow me on social media at Tubi Tuesday. On Twitter, every week we do a theme, and on that theme, we just kind of watch one film to the theme. And this past week was films that take place either desert, in a sandy area, something like that. And one of the films I watched was from 2013 called Scenic Route. It stars Josh Duhamel and Dan Fogler, about these two friends. Their car breaks down in the desert. They're stuck. And it's kind of a literal spiral into madness of them trying to get away and them just fighting and things happening. And it was a pretty solid movie. I really enjoyed it. And it really has you thinking at the end of everything that happened and what's kind of going on. I'm not giving anything away. But on Tubi, go check out Scenic Route. Go follow me at Tubi Tuesday on Twitter, or at Old Man Brad on Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, if you have those instead. And if you really love Old Man Brad, become a patron of the show, patreon.com/oldmanbrad. I recap my Tubi Tuesday theme watches every week, and I have other exclusive content in the works. But that will do it for another chapter of Old Man Brad. Just subscribe to the show. You'll never miss a chapter. Just snuggle up in that blanket, turn off the lights, because it's okay to be scared. We'll talk to you later, everybody.